Good Saturday morning, everyone. Today on Perspectives, it's the beginning of a new year, and whether we like it or not, now is the time to start preparing for severe weather events such as flooding, tornadoes, and of course tropical storms and hurricanes. It's been several months now since two hurricanes named Sally and Zeta made our lives miserable and dangerous here on the Gulf Coast. In too many cases, we're still cleaning up from both of them today. In Baldwin County, debris is still being removed after Hurricane Sally. Baldwin County officials said at this time that it left more than 160,000 people without power in the county. Cleanup crews continuing to repair homes and remove the 60,000 pounds of debris the storms left behind. All of South Alabama's counties were affected. Now, Hurricane Zeta smashed into communities like Citronelle in North Mobile County. Officials say the town took a heavy hit, with the mayor posting to Facebook that his city had been, quote, destroyed. And let's face it, he says, the two storms left us a 1-2 punch that will long be remembered in South Alabama. Now, beginning February the 26th and through that weekend, Alabama will observe a severe weather sales tax holiday. It gives folks a chance to restock on essential items such as batteries, weather radios, and tarps. Anything that you may need in a storm that costs less than $60 will be exempt from the sales tax. And portable generators now less than $1,000 will also be exempt from sales tax during the tax-free holiday. Joining us this morning to talk about preparations for severe weather, Zach Hood, the Baldwin County Emergency Management Agency Director, and the Baldwin County Commission Chairman, Joe Davis III. They're telling us that now is the time to prepare to face any future weather challenges that could come our way. Perspectives will continue in just a moment. This morning, we're talking to Baldwin County EMA Director Zach Hood. He joins us to express concerns about severe weather here, not only in the southwest part of Alabama, but most specifically in Baldwin County. And Zach, good to see you. Glad to have you a part of the program discussion this morning.
Thank you very much for having us. We greatly appreciate the opportunity.
You know, this time of the year, you are concerned about severe weather and most importantly, thunderstorms, possible tornadoes, as well as some of the other things that come with that type of weather. And just recently in the state, Birmingham was affected. In fact, the community of Fultondale was affected by a tornado touchdown and, of course, sadly, loss of life as well as a lot of damage. And not only are you familiar with tornadoes, but you're also familiar with Fultondale, that being your home area and family still there. Tell us how that ties into this concern about severe weather, not only in the state, but most importantly in the Baldwin County area.
Eric, it goes back to why I chose to do emergency management as a profession, and it is because I realized that in communities, individuals need to be prepared for threats and hazards that we face, whether it be in Baldwin County in southwest Alabama or the state. We must be prepared, we must be ready, and I take it personally to do everything I can as emergency management director in Baldwin County to at least encourage someone to take the next step and be prepared for specifically weather in this case, but for other threats and hazards we may see.
Now, when we talk about preparedness as well as listening to the weather reports, when we hear that possibilities of severe weather, what are you asking us to do?
Yeah, what we want you to do first is have multiple ways to receive watches, warnings, and weather alerts, whether it's through Fox 10 Weather app, whether it is through the Baldwin County EMA app, or maybe your local emergency management agency communication site. However you receive weather alerts, make sure that you're in tune, in touch, and we strongly encourage, and I can't say this enough, but we strongly encourage you to have a weather radio, just as we have smoke detectors in our house. Smoke detectors are very important to protect our life and our safety, specifically when we're asleep. We saw a tornado go through when there were many individuals asleep. That weather radio, if maintained properly, will wake you up so you can seek shelter immediately. It's a great notification tool, and I strongly encourage you, if you do not have a weather radio, maybe your weather radio is on a shelf, get that weather radio out, dust it off, plug it in, make sure it has batteries, make sure it works, please.
How do we make decisions based on what we're hearing from the weather reports about the different levels of the severe weather, where we're looking at something minimal versus something extremely high on that severity scale? How do we make decisions based on hearing that report earlier? Just say like in Fultondale, I'm sure on the evening news around 6 p.m., the folks in that area heard certain things. What should we prepare when we hear the different levels of warning?
That is a very common question that we get in emergency management in our office, Eric, and I appreciate you bringing that to us. And what I want everyone to know is that outside of receiving alerts is do not get caught up on the intensity of the weather system. And I'm talking whether it's a category level hurricane or a tropical storm. Don't get caught up on what it is. History has shown us that these storms, specifically coming out of the Gulf, they intensify as they approach land. And we cannot look at the situation as that is just a Category 2 or that is just a tropical storm. What we have to look at is within those alerts, within those warnings, is what kind of hazards we have. If you look at Hurricane Sally had 30 inches of rain that was predicted by the National Weather Service in Mobile from 3 days out. 30 inches of rain. That is substantial. You have to recognize that kind of language as alerts are pushed into the community. As far as severe weather systems, we saw a slight chance for storms. That is something we see very common in Alabama. In fact, Alabama is known as Dixie Alley, and we are proven historically here to have very deadly tornadoes, and in the night hour they are deadly and historically have been deadly, and that was unfortunately again, and what I do want you to know is it was a slight risk.
Right.
So when we see a risk, when we see a threat, whether it may be for a severe weather storm system or a hurricane, a tropical storm, please take it at face value. Know what those threats are. Know that those threats and hazards can increase in terms of intensity, and always plan for the worst and hope for the best.
You know, when you are talking and sharing, you can understand where, coming from the EMA director, that we've got to educate ourselves in this whole process. It's not something that we can just, oh, well, the weather's happening, but we need to be aware of what the situations are ahead of time so we can make the proper plan, and most importantly, have the tools to be prepared in the event of severe weather. Talk about, you mentioned Hurricane Sally and, of course, the different levels of storms that came through. And 2020, a very busy year for hurricanes here in the Gulf and across the Atlantic Basin. But give us an update of where we are with Sally, because just in the past weekend, I saw some places still suffering the after effects of Sally where they had not been repaired as of this date.
Well, and you know, as you know, Eric, we have over $60 million in vegetative debris to date, and we are not finished, and that's just in unincorporated areas of the county. That's not including what's going on within cities. Cities have also had a tremendous amount of debris and very high dollar value at removing those vegetative debris from the area. So the storm that we had in Sally, the fact that it moved so slowly for such a long time caused catastrophic damage for several days. People were without power, and we knew from day one that the cleanup process was not going to be easy, but it was something that we were all up against the challenge to take on the challenge, rather, to ensure that we continue to work as hard and as fast as we can and as efficient as we can. And I think that you can see we're beginning our last pass in February for debris removal, but we're also have a number of hazard mitigation projects lined up, and that's exactly what I like to see is individuals planning ahead, knowing what's available to them and resources, and making their structure better, better preparing their families for storms now that they have experienced a storm. Eric, and I told you this earlier, over 100,000 new residents to the county since Hurricane Ivan. And the task we have in outreach and education for our community is not going to be easy, but we're up for the challenge. We will continue to do education outreach. We will continue to encourage anyone that may be watching this today to have a family discussion. Have that discussion at the table. Talk with your neighbors. Now, this is a community-driven process. Disasters begin and end in communities. You know your neighbors, you know your family, and make sure you loop them in too, because in the early stages of any disaster, they will be your rock, if you will, in terms of response.
EMA Director Zach Hood, we're talking about some very important things that turn to be very important for families, as well as a lot of retired couples coming to Baldwin County now as they retire in the county. And so some very important information this morning. Now, when we come back, we're going to take a break. We're going to have the Commissioner Joe Davis join us. He is the chairman of the commission. When we come back, more about severe weather and how you can be prepared in Baldwin County. We're talking severe weather preparedness this morning. Our guest, the Baldwin County EMA Director, Zach Hood. And joining us now, Commissioner Joe Davis III, who is Commissioner of District 2. And at this moment, you're also serving as the Chairman of the Baldwin County Commission. We thank you for joining the discussion and dialogue at this time as well. We're talking severe weather, and when we talk about that, Commissioner Davis, you have several cities of major importance in the county, as well as concern about the entire county as we look at the breakdown of your district. How important it is for you to get this message out to people who are moving in, as well as residents who are still having been in the county for quite a while? How important is this message that we're trying to get out today to you and your residents in that area?
Thank you, Eric, for having us. Zach and I work very closely with all of his team and my colleagues on the county commission. And as I shared with you, while we have to run by district, we're elected countywide. But I'll kind of focus on the Eastern Shore because that's my district. But the entire county is part of my responsibility. And I think that's good for all of us because things don't occur by district lines. They occur by the storm and the pattern that it chooses to take. And what we're about now is making sure that we can inform people early on to get the things done, to do your checklist. It's just like if you're going to the mountains, you have a checklist of things to take. If you're going to the beach, you have a checklist of things to take. I want you, whether you've lived here all your life or just come in, to realize that you need to have a checklist of how to be safe in paradise. I refer to this as paradise. I'm one of the ones that came here from Thomasville up in north of Mobile, but to be able to function well in Baldwin County and the other parts, southwest Alabama as well, and all the way up into the Birmingham area like we heard Zach talking about,
right,
is to be able to have a plan and to make sure you have the things that you need and that you do them early enough, because with the COVID and with the hurricanes, our distribution chains are kind of, if not disrupted, they're certainly slowed down.
Right.
And I think it's important. I think it's very important for people to do their checklist, look and see what we need, and then don't wait till the last day or two to make the purchases. A 10% savings is significant. And the state, the county, we feel it's very important not only to help people with this savings, but to encourage them to get things ordered as early as possible.
Commissioner Davis, let's talk about what happened with Hurricane Sally, because your district includes Spanish Fort, Daphne, Fairhope, Point Clear, Montrose, all on Mobile Bay. And there was something that happened during Sally that maybe most people aren't aware of, but your district really felt the blunt of that storm as far as the surge aspect, the water from Mobile Bay.
That's correct. And see, many of us, and like I said, I've grown up in the area and been to Baldwin County since the 60s, and you tend to think of things happening on the coastline, and it does, but the bay extends all the way up the western side of our county. And during Sally, we had some severe surges that impacted marine life. It impacted communication links to the causeway and other places, and it was just another example of where when a storm hits, it can have impact that we're aware of and expect, but it can also have impact in places that we maybe didn't expect.
That's right.
We learn from every storm and to try to get better to handle it for the safety of our citizens.
And that preparedness word is so key here. And Director Hood, let's bring you back in here as we look at the importance of what you want to share with people is take advantage of the tax-free opportunities, because you can stock up on things that you will need eventually if you live here along the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, absolutely. Because of the historical hurricane season that we had an influx of individuals saying, hey, I'm looking at buying these items, what do you think? And I think that's a great conversation to have with your local emergency management agency. On those lists, I see generators, which part of the tax-free weekend, under $1,000. So any generator less than $1,000, you are exempt from the taxes. Also carbon monoxide alarms, weather radios, of course, a number of Duracell type batteries or just batteries that can be utilized in radios within refrigeration devices. We saw some very creative things that occurred during the storm season this year, and we're trying to capture that as well and share it as we can. But listen, what we want you to do is prepare now for the tax-free weekend, which will be at the end of February. We don't want to wait until Wednesday, the week of the tax-free weekend, and say, hey, by the way, it's tax-free weekend. What we want to do now is make you aware that the weekend, tax-free weekend is coming, and it is available to you and Baldwin County to make those purchases that you've been wanting to make, to build your kit, to prepare your family, and most importantly, to be ready for storm season that is just right around the corner in spring. We want to talk about hurricane season, and I think it's important we do that, but do not forget Alabama's spring severe weather season as well, and the threat for strong storms to include tornadoes. We want you to consider all of those areas.
That's so important. I thank both of you gentlemen for coming and sharing today, because when you hear the message that you're both giving, preparedness is so important, and then of course being aware of severe weather levels as far as well as the hurricane levels. All of this information is something that we do need to be talking about. And as we wrap up here, each of you take about 30 seconds or about 10 seconds, let's say, and share why it's so important for those who are moving here to, as Commissioner Davis, you said, Paradise in Baldwin County, why this information is so important for them.
I think it's significant because as you move to any and change any setting, you need to understand where things are. You need to know how to reach out when you're in an emergency. And then I think it's very significant that we help our neighbors. Let's communicate together. Baldwin County is a county of doers, and the doers get out there and help people. And that's why people come here. It's a great place to live, but it also has all the features. We have 14 cities and towns.
Right.
And all of them need to be as unique as they want to be. Our job at the County Commission is to communicate and have the connectivity. So as we get bigger, let's get better at everything we do.
All right, Commissioner Joe Davis, we thank you so much. And Zach, close us out here with a quick word that you want to leave with our viewers this morning.
listen, we never know what tomorrow will bring. So my encouragement for anyone that's watching is go ahead today and at least have the conversation about severe weather in our area and what your plan is for your family, what the plan is for your friends, and know and understand that we can't rely on the fact that it's just a slight chance for tornadoes, or it's just a tropical storm, it's just a Category 2. That is very dangerous concept to have. And if there's one thing you take away from today is know when the tax-free weekend is, build that kit, be prepared, and have multiple ways to receive watches, warnings, and immediate alerts.
We thank you so much for sharing that message this morning. Once again, our Baldwin County EMA Director, Zach Hood, and Baldwin County Commissioner Joe Davis III, also our Commission Chairman. We thank you both so much for getting this message out, and of course, we will stay connected to you both to make sure that we here at Fox 10 are getting that word out. Thank you both, gentlemen.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you very much.
Don't forget, for more information on what is tax-free, go to the website revenue.alabama.gov or call the Alabama Department of Revenue. Remember now, it begins at midnight on the 26th of this month and then ends on Sunday, that's February the 28th. Well, please join us here next Saturday morning at 9 for Perspectives as we discuss those important issues. I'm Eric Reynolds. Have a great week ahead.
Thanks for watching Fox 10 News. Watch us live wherever you are on our mobile, our streaming news app, and you can also watch us on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV.